Welcome to the latest edition of the Leader to Leader podcast. I'm your host, Susan Spears, President and CEO of the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce. And our guest today is Dr. Marceline Catlett, who is the Superintendent of Schools of Fredericksburg City Public Schools here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'd like to welcome you, Marcy.
Oh, thank you, Susan. It is such a pleasure to be joining you today on my first official podcast ever.
Oh, that's so awesome. That is so awesome. Well, let me share a little bit with our listeners about your background. And just a little bit, because I'm going to have you tell the story. But this is the professional piece, so you guys know what an awesome, accomplished lady I have here with me. Early in February for Black History Month too. It's just so many great things to tie in today as I talk here with Dr. Catlett. So she attended Virginia State University, where she graduated magna cum laude, earning a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education. She went on to earn a Master of Education degree in Curriculum and Instruction from the University of Virginia, and she earned a doctorate degree in Educational Leadership and Policy Studies from Virginia VPI. I'm messing up the word. That's
Virginia
terrible.
Tech.
That's right, Virginia Tech. Very technical here on the bio. I love it, though. I'm sticking around that word technical, but we're not going to spend much time there today. It's all going to be about heart and leadership and State University. Her career with the Fredericksburg City Public Schools began in 1981 at Walker Grant Middle School, where she worked as a sixth grade teacher. Now listen to this journey. She moved into school administration in 1990, serving as the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction and Personnel, Deputy Superintendent, and most recently, Superintendent of Fredericksburg City Public Schools. I will also just do a side personal note. I can't help it. During that time, she did work with my dad, who I occasionally mention here on the podcast, Dr. Richard Garnett. He was the superintendent also of Fredericksburg City Public Schools from 1983 to 1997. So Marcy is somebody I love in our community, but then I have that special place too because of that piece that we share there.
Well, and Susan, it's not that I worked with your dad. He hired me for the position starting my career as sixth grade teacher at Walker Grant Middle School. So I really am so honored to be in your presence in terms of the connection that our families have had on the personal and professional stance. So know that I value the relationship.
Thank you. Me as well. And we've certainly known each other for years and years here, both of us being Fredericksburg natives. But as we've grown professionally, I think we've had more of these conversations and gotten to know more about how we got here. It's really fascinating, and I'd love for you to share more of your story.
Well, and our journeys are similar, except that you're younger. So I wasn't at James Monroe High School with you, being a James Monroe grad. Yeah. We've walked in the same path in a number of ways, and especially in terms of you serving the community and coming back to Fredericksburg. You could be a chamber anywhere, but your heart was in Fredericksburg, and just like mine.
Yes.
So to be home and be able to work with our new residents, folks that have come to Fredericksburg and love it, as well as the natives of Fredericksburg that, they expect that we do right by everybody that is a part of our community. And you've certainly been doing that in your role. So I applaud you for your service. Yes.
And as you mentioned, folks coming here, they do not see the region and the city the way we do. Because of we came through times where things really have changed a lot. So share some of that with our listeners. What has your journey been like growing up and then going from being a student into a professional world?
Yes, Fredericksburg is a unique city, and what makes it so special is the mutual respect that I feel like we all have, and how much we value really what community stands for. So, and the sense of a village, on a wide scale view and person to person, and we all have our own. and for different reasons, and I know it was the village that my family, church, friends, educators, civic workers, and that helped mold me into what it is I've been able to accomplish over the years. And they've been on the sidelines applauding for me and praying for me and lifting me. And I'm talking about a whole lot of people. And especially now in this role, because it is one of the toughest jobs that anyone could be holding and performing during this time. And so I'm stopped a lot of times to say, how do you do it? If and strong faith and teamwork really keeps us in the fight. But yes, my journey started on Wolf Street and a loving home, faith-based, always valuing education as the key out of poverty and the key that would make for a better way of life. Our parents wanted that for us, and they sacrificed, and that was a major goal in their vision for us. And so when you have that type of foundation, you want to do right by all that they've done to do to help us. So, and not only the family, it's that village of our teachers, the principals in the schools, our neighbors and classmates, just so much collective love and support. And with that, when I came home to teach, Ms. Young and Dr. Garnett interviewed me, and then I started teaching with Ms. Bailey and Susan Regan, Ms. Regan. So it was the sixth grade teacher that had taught me.
Those are my sixth grade teachers.
Yeah, so how could you not feel like, oh, I can make this work? Because, to be surrounded by people that wanted it to work for you and supported you in those processes. But you have to be willing to be an active listener and be taught in the process. So you've got to be open-minded enough to know that folks have been here before and they know what's right and they have lots of wisdom and that they're helping and wanting you to succeed. So follow suit. So I loved being a student and I loved learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So all through my journey, I accepted every opportunity as an opportunity to get better and excel and do well. And Virginia State prepared us well to be teachers. At that time, there were 200 in my graduating class, and I was honored to have the highest average coming out of that class. But we were well prepared and trained to do the work. Didn't take teaching lightly. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so excited about being able to share the story. But,
I love it.
True professionals, stay away from the teacher's lounge. Don't get pulled into negative.
Okay.
Negative energy. Do lesson planning to the level of my student teaching, like 30 pages handwritten prepare for the week. I mean, truly above and beyond the call of duty, high expectations and doing well. So when I entered the field to teach, and I love people and children, of course, you have to do this work because it's countless hours.
Yes.
You don't do it for the pay.
Right.
You do it because it's a calling. I consider it close to preaching because you're transforming lives. And you've just got to be open to refining and honing your skill throughout your career. So the journey's been wonderful. I've had lots of support. I wouldn't have it any other way. Each position prepared me for the next position, even though you might not realize it. I remember when Dr. Dale Sanders said, Marcy, I want you to do personnel. I said, well, I love instruction. I don't know a thing about personnel,
There you
but Mr.
go.
Recall was retiring then. And so I just saddled up and got myself prepared, had a great team of ladies working with me, Elaine and Cindy, and we made it happen. So to know now how important it was that I got that personnel, human resources experience was just laying the foundation for me to be able to do the work I'm doing and having a broader perspective of what is demanded of the job. But I even take it to the place, Susan, of being a teacher. We're in the classroom with 25 plus children. You're making decisions constantly, thousands of them. Anything can happen at any moment that will take you away from your planned lessons. And so why didn't that, if you view it, be the stepping stone to preparing me for doing that when I was an admin in the building level, when I took on all the children in the building? Then the next level as an admin, central office, the whole division. And so now in the superintendent's role, it's the same thing. With the decisions we've had to make almost every 3 days in terms of COVID-19 mitigation processes. And you've watched the news, so you know how schools have been thrown in some instances, the political crossfires. Yeah, we're making decisions all the time, just like I did in the classroom, but just at another level. So all of that is a preparation for building blocks to do the work. And I've been so blessed in the 40th year of my career to serve as the superintendent, to culminate out what I've done all my life and what my calling is. So I'll be in hopefully until I feel that I've done what I've needed to do to improve the quality of education for our students and families, and help someone else prepare themselves to take over the role and support them in that role in whatever way that I can.
Okay, well, so much awesomeness and so many things that you just said. You just need to know that a lot of people may have been satisfied at teaching sixth grade. Okay, there is nothing wrong with that, right?
No,
or at any stage of that, may have stuck with just the original degree and not continued. So that constant quest you've been on for even more learning, the next step, preparation. Yes, I'll do that. Personnel, Dr. Sand, it's not my thing, but okay, I'll figure it out. I'll do it. And all of those things. That is such a admirable can-do way of going about your business.
Well, and I have to admit, I do have an innate desire to lead, and it started very early. My first educational role model would have been Miss Carrie Golden. She was my preschool teacher. That was right across the street on Wolf Street, and she was very stern, strict, high expectations, no nonsense. And Mama sent us at 3 years old, so I was there for 3 years, at 3, 4, and 5 years old.
Wow.
But she let me, my classmates, Marcy Rollins was in charge of the crayons. They teased me all the time because she would have me doing, responsibilities that were more like a teacher's aide, but I'd been there, 3 years, but was able to make the culminating speech in our cap and gown. So you see me in the blue robe while the others have on white robes. So it started as soon as preschool.
That's so awesome.
And then that prepared me for Mom and Daddy sending us to Maury before federally mandated integration took place.
Well, can we just because all our listeners don't know?
Okay.
Could you add a little more texture around what that means? What is Maury and that piece of your journey?
Yes. Yeah. Born as a child of the Civil Rights Movement in '59, we were civil rights advocates, even everyone around me at home. And so with that, up until 67, 68, the children in the city could have the choice of attending the all-black school at Walker Grant or the elementary school of Maury or Lafayette. That were the white schools. And so my mom, being an activist, and Dad, they said, we're going to send you to Maury Elementary School to help in the process of integrating the schools. It didn't happen to be full integration until, like I said, somewhere around 67, 68. So where my friends at home and at my church and all, they were going to Walker Grant as the all-black school.
Okay.
Mel and me, my older sister, went to Maury, where there were only a few black students at the school at that time, in terms of integrating Maury School and preparing the way for full federally mandated integration.
That is quite an amazing thing to hear. I know you shared that with me a few months ago, and I had never realized that had happened here, that there was this period of time where there were just a few students, and you were one of those trailblazers. What was that like?
Well, I have to give credit to the, I'd say, 2 to 3 year older students that may not have had quite as easy a transition as I did.
Sure.
My sister's story is different than mine.
Okay.
So they paved the way when it were more bush and trees on the path. So when I got there was a bit more tolerance.
Okay.
Because the others had gone before. And then I have to give credit to Miss Carrie Golden for her high expectations and strictness in terms of how she taught us and prepared us for first grade. And then my mom and dad, my mom was, old school.
Yes.
You do what I say, you're going to be okay. I'm not going to put you into any situation that's going to harm you. So what I found was I was able to benefit from having my white friends at Maury and my African-American friends at home. And we would participate in Walker Grant's events, the NAACP meetings, the basketball games. So I had both worlds.
Yes.
And so what that did was when it finally came to the point of integration, I could help bridge both races, to the point that they elected me not senior class president, but sixth grade SCA president at Maury School. I said, I won't make promises that I can't keep, but I'll try to get us chocolate milk. And it worked out okay. And so I've been serving pretty much in that role through my entire middle school and high school experiences. So senior class president, and we are a close class of 77.
Yeah.
We're having our 45th class reunion in June.
Oh, my gosh.
And, I get it. And we make it work, and we love each other, and we have mutual respect for our differences. So that's been my calling in terms of wanting what's best for everybody involved.
It's just a beautiful message, and it's really needed in today's world. I know everything in life, in the world, in history, it repeats itself in many ways. So right now, where it feels like a lack of civility, it's just a disaster. I mean, it's been there all along, but I think in more pockets and not on this 24-hour media cycle where you could see every bad behavior. You might hear about it, but there was no record of it.
Well, I can be truthful with you, Susan, as an SCA sponsor, helping run elections and those processes in the elementary school and middle school. There were things that we would not have tolerated with our SCA speeches and behaviors that as teachers, as sponsors, we would have said, oh, no.
Right.
We don't do that.
Right.
And we would have just said, no name calling, no inappropriate gestures, pull the plug until we're ready to do this right.
Yes.
So that's what we instill in our students in schools to, again, have that mutual respect for everyone involved and practice civility. So I've been bothered and a bit there's been a disheartening in terms of watching that subside or be put on the back burner in terms of how you treat people. We don't do that. We that's completely counter to how we want to run schools and train children.
Well, and I agree with you that it should be also how we want our business community that I work with and our community as a whole, to be known as a civil place. And so we've had this as a major theme in previous years at the Chamber of Commerce, and this year in 2022, it's going to be a big piece of my focus.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Is bringing the conversation forward out there in the community and so forth. So stay tuned for more of that. Yeah. Really early in some of your remarks, you mentioned Mrs. Young. You talked about first, you talked about being brought up with the neighborhood, and in my mind, one of the first things that came in my mind as you said it, from my personal journey, was Mrs. Young, who moved into my neighborhood when I was in 4th grade, and this is a human being extraordinaire that has had an influence on so many people's lives here in the Fredericksburg region. I think Marcy and I could get in an in-civil fist fight here, claiming which one of us owns her or claims her the most.
I will
because she's that way, right?
Yes.
So I think it's worth pausing here for a minute, and sharing some thoughts about what this leader has influenced our lives.
Definitely.
And why is that? What makes this particular person so special to you?
Well, and you're exactly right, Susan. When I mentioned Miss Carrie Golden at preschool, Ms. Young would certainly be the next. I call her my professional mother in terms of how she nurtured and looked out for me and taught me how to be a better teacher and a better administrator. And she, when you walk, you talk.
Yes.
And when you're willing to have the hard conversations to save a life, to make you better, that's what I found in Ms. Young throughout not only my high school years, because she was there as assistant principal.
Yes.
Even definitely in my professional career, because the city was looking for more minority teachers. So she called Virginia State to find my minority teachers. And when she found out that I was getting ready to graduate, she was instrumental in getting me the interview with your dad. So, when I came home for spring break and interviewed with them, I knew that summer that I had the job. So, that's the kind of networking and connections that matter in the life of building people to do this honorable work that educators do. Right. So, she was there through it all and some, even after she retired, and helping make sure that I understood, what was right, what was appropriate.
Oh, she'll tell you.
Yeah, and rolling up her sleeves to help do the work. So, Susan, what I've said about being the first African American superintendent, what I'm healing from, since that's part of the theme from the UMW's Black History program, is that, why did it take so long? I'm talking about, how about the Miss Carrie Goldens? Yes. How about Miss Marguerite Young? Yes. How about Mr. Hubbard, that was the principal at Walker Grant? I'm glad to be able to be in this post, but so many more educators that are so well deserving and so highly qualified that came before me. So, we're celebrating, but why did it take so long?
Man, it's just a great question to put out there to the universe. And your story of just so much respect for people and love and admiration that have supported and helped and been a part of your journey. It's just really inspiring.
Oh.
I appreciate
And
it.
you got to give people their props for helping you stand. I mean, I'm standing on their shoulders. A lot of sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And what I saw in African American leaders through all the turmoil and suffering was that look of firmness, seriousness, fearlessness, and courage to get up every day and to keep up the good fight in terms of justice and freedom for all. And I don't take that lightly in terms of them paving the way that I can sit here under this title and position because of the work so many people did to help get me here.
Now you know you're that person for others, right?
I hope to be.
No, you are. So I can see that you're going to struggle to accept that from me. but you know, you've been that for a long time. You're doing that. You are that. Yeah. She's I've made her get a little emotional here. So I will talk a little bit more right here. I'll go back for just another second. As somebody who was in the community watching all of this growing up, I guess with the privilege of being Caucasian at the time, accepted and loved and brought into this community, which I admired so much growing up. My dad, who we referenced, worked hand in hand, side by side with Mrs. Marguerite B. Young. And as a child, I never knew anything different than to think that she was the most wonderful human being. And she boy, would she give it to me if I needed it, needed to be told, do better. But Marcy mentioned active listening earlier, and Mrs. Young's going to heaven for a lot of reasons one day. But among those reasons was the hours and hours and hours as a child and a teenager and then college and beyond that she listened to me and all the whatever drama. And my drama must have seemed so goofy compared to some of the paths she had walked and others. But she never made me feel that way. Mm-hmm. She listened.
Oh, yes.
And listened.
And she has the way of really building your skills and complimenting you and talking about your strong qualities without it feeling like it's flattery, more in terms of business as usual. And Marcy, you can do this.
Yes.
And you have the skills to do this. And I want you to do this. And so with a mother that my mom, Marie Rollins, who demonstrated every day that her dream was for her two little girls to go off to college. And that was her sacrifice, that she wasn't able to. And that's all she wanted for us to do. And her strength to do what she did. And then Ms. Young, along with other teachers as well.
Yes.
Other adults, Gay and her dad through Harambe and
yes.
the Miss Black Teenage I mean, I could list, at every
just
port
so
of my life.
Yes. Yes.
The people that have poured into me their gifts and skills and talents and hope and belief that, can't leave out my immediate family, my husband and son.
Sure.
They're certainly the wind beneath my wings and have been, because those sacrifices of going to these colleges, universities meant, money out of our budget.
Right.
But, for
and time away.
College, right. Yes. And they have been there for me, with me all along the way. So, I'm just a composite of a whole lot of different elements in terms of community and support and love.
Well, it's just awesome. It's inspiring just to sit and have this conversation with you. We're going to start to wind it down now. It's hard to believe we've already been chatting for almost a half hour.
Okay.
Just so many different avenues we could go in. And so what I'll do in the future is I'm going to invite you back. So you won't be doing your first podcast. You'll be doing more. But it'll be wonderful to continue our conversation. For now, I would say, our listeners are worldwide. What's anything that you would like to share for listeners that are hearing from you for the first time?
I'd like to say that value each moment of life. I always start the day with, give us this day our daily bread, and live it to its fullest, because you never know what's coming the next day. I believe that there's a purpose in terms of why we're here on earth, and seek your purpose and fulfill it. I believe that if you ground yourself in faith, you'll have no fear. Believe and do good work.
Wonderful. Thank you. And do you have one or maybe more favorite mottos you'd like to share?
Well, professionally, our motto has been, especially in terms of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been moving forward and upward, leading at the speed of change. And we didn't really know how literally that was going to come into play.
No kidding.
Yes.
And we're not done yet.
No. But that's been important, to stay focused, move forward and upward, leading at the speed of change. And then in terms of when I start to think back on how life was prior to, and I've had some major losses in my life, and you think of the good days and times. T.D. Jakes always says, you can't drive a car looking in the rear view mirror. So you have to go forward, stay focused, and be thankful for what's to come, and choose life.
Wonderful. Wow. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, Susan, thank you so much for this opportunity and for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks to our listeners for spending time with us today. I'm Susan Spears, and our guest was Dr. Marceline Catlett, Superintendent of the Fredericksburg City Public Schools. If you have not already subscribed to the Chambers We Are Business podcast, go ahead and do so, please. And then you'll know when the next episode is available. And while you're at it, if you could jump over and give us a review so other listeners can find us easily, we'd be so appreciative. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.